Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Tom Worth Jr. And as predicted by much of Western civilization over the past few weeks, Trump has basically declared war on Venezuela tonight via Truth Social. He announced a blockade. I'm sure many of you have already seen this news of all sanctioned ships coming into or out of Venezuela. This will cripple their oil exports, which is most of the money of the country. This will result in a humanitarian disaster. This will most likely end up in a shooting war. I use the term war loosely. It'll be target practice for the United States military. Venezuela won't be able to do anything to stop this. This is all a distraction from the release of the Epstein files. You may ask, what does a war in Venezuela have to do with Trump's DOJ releasing the Epstein files? Absolutely nothing is the answer to that. But as we close in on Friday, which is the law that was passed by Congress to require the release of all the Epstein testimony and files, by Friday, this Friday, the December 19th Friday, all of the senators and Congress people would be just screaming about this as we get closer, and as he doesn't do it or as Pam Bondi doesn't do it on Friday. And now what they will be screaming about, as for instance a representative from Texas already is that this is a declaration of war without prior approval of Congress. And that's why Trump's doing it, is to give Congress something to yell at him about other than the Epstein files. Is going to war with another nation more important than the Epstein files? Absolutely. The Epstein files are an embarrassment, possibly criminal. Most of us think that Trump did engage in illegal activities on Epstein's Island and in other places. But that pales in comparison with going to war with another country, where countless innocent people will perish, the country will be blown up. It's just going to cause untold damage and devastation for the country of Venezuela, all because Trump doesn't want further embarrassment. It's a threat to his presidency. When his people find out once and for all what he actually did, they should already know. All the evidence is overwhelming against him, but when they see all of it, they will just turn on him, and they will expect their Congress people to turn on him. So all of this is because he couldn't avoid engaging in whatever it was that he engaged in with those decades with his good buddy Jeffrey Epstein. What can the world do about it? They can't do anything about it. Venezuela is already going to go to the UN about this. The UN won't be able to do anything about it. There were more extrajudicial executions by the United States today. The number we know of that have been killed so far since September on the seas by these attacks by the U.S. military on these boats is 95 people killed so far and over 20 boats attacked. And those are, you can't, anyway, that's just something else that's going on. It didn't provide enough of a distraction, I guess, for Trump. So Trump does actually want Maduro out. It is illegal for him to declare war on another country without Congress's authorization. And as Susie Wiles said in her Vanity Fair interview, the direct quote was, Trump believes he can do anything he wants to as president. And obviously, we all know this already, and the Supreme Court is largely backing him up in that belief. So this is what we are faced with: a Congress that will not hold him accountable, a Supreme Court that will not hold him accountable. He is going to war against another country. Not only did the Republican congressperson from Texas called an act of war. Maduro himself has called it a declaration of war against Venezuela. If the country you are taking these actions against views it as a declaration of war, I mean, if it's taken as a declaration of war, and our own congressperson is calling it a declaration of war, I don't know. Maybe it's a declaration of war. I would tend to think so. There's nothing Maduro can do about it. The other thing was that Trump said that he needed to relinquish everything that they took from the United States, probably referring to Hugo Chavez's seizure of U.S. oil interests there back during his term. I don't know. That's not going to stop anything. It's not going to stop the cruise missiles from flying, and it's not going to stop Maduro from having forcible regime change foisted upon him. So that's what we're looking at. As I said, everyone's been predicting this for weeks and weeks. And sure enough, it's Tuesday night and Friday is the deadline. So, even if he doesn't launch a single cruise missile, which I find highly unlikely that he wouldn't launch any, we're all having to talk about it now. And the Congress people are all having to already talk about that instead of the Epstein files for the remainder of this week. So mission accomplished already if you're Trump. But again, his problem's not going away. It's not like he has to just get through Friday and then he's okay. Friday just becomes a date on which another law is broken by him and his administration when they don't release everything. If they do release things, and I don't think they will, but it will be heavily redacted. It will be kind of useless. And so all the belly aching and whining and yelling and crying that would be done about that, justifiably so, by these Congress people who passed this law, will fall on deaf ears because there will be bigger things at stake here, and that's war with another country. Anyway, that's what Trump's up to on a Tuesday evening, and we have to pay attention to it, unfortunately. So we will check in again and see what happens overnight, and we'll talk to you all tomorrow.